So let's continue. We don't need to change these settings that much, but it's good to know if you sometimes do more painterly stuff. But you can do those. A few more things about the painting is that if you want to enable symmetry, you can just click up here and it creates a red, it's there, it says symmetry, it's a symbol of symmetry there. Two triangles with a line in between. You get a red line in the center. And now you have symmetry enabled. So that's symmetry. Then there's one more thing, which is lazy mouse, and that is pressed from D in Substance. So D makes the mouse lazy. So then you can draw like really smooth lines. You can see that there's like a darker area around the brush. So D for lazy mouse. That's quite handy if you like want to do some like soft swirls or something like that. And press D again for disabling it. Okay, then let's look at the actual material also from the properties panel. The first thing, if you go downwards, is on the properties. We can see that there's quite a lot of stuff here. It says material. And now we need to be really like careful when we do this. It already says it has 5 things here, 5 buttons: color, height, roughness, metallic, and normal. Those are all things that we could paint. You're probably used to being painting color, but not height. So we can now disable all the other ones but the color. So just click on the height, roughness, metal, and normal. Then you're left with only the color. So we'll go through those other ones later on. So now you can see that there is base color, and it's the actual color is the bar here. So if we want to change the color, we click here. And now we can change it to, for example, red, or whichever color you want to pick. And now we can paint with color. So it's under properties, and then you can see the actual color. I'll paint some red and then some other color, and I'll check that my flow is not in 100%, so I can mix the colors a bit. Or the opacity, you can use that also. So now the two colors mix. Then if you want to pick the colors as in Photoshop with the eyedropper, it's a bit unhandy here. It's the button for the eyedropper is P. So you need to press P and then it's active, and then you can click on the material wherever. So P activates it, and then you can change the material. But it's not similar in Photoshop that you would need to press it down as the Alt in Photoshop. So P for picking up colors that you have mixed here.
Okei. Onko sulla kaikki valmista vai? No, sun ei ehkä ihan nyt kansi tulla. Sano silleen, että mä tuun takas. Joo. Koska nyt
Joudut hyppää just niin kesken kaiken, niin se ei ole fiksu. So that's how you can color stuff in. So that's similar to like using Photoshop, but in Painter. Okay, then let's have a look a bit of the views. We need to change them just a tiny bit, or I like to change them. So how the camera looks like, and those guys are changed here from display settings. And I just want to make few changes here, but I'll show you some of the stuff that's happening. So first of all, there is different environments here. So you can, if you go here to display settings, the screen, the symbol of screen here, you can change the environment map up here. The first one, mine says Tomoko Studio. And these guys change the environment where the model is. So display settings and environment map. You shouldn't use the first ones here because they have so much color data that can screw up your colors, the environments that have color. But just take one of these. Probably the Studio ones are the best. For example, the Studio 02 is really good. It's quite neutral. So it just changes the lighting where it is. So that's the environment. Then we have the environment. You shouldn't push the other ones. We just use you can change the environments, and then you can change the rotation. But you already knew how to change the rotation with shift and right drag. It's the same then there. So if you need to change the color somewhere else. Painter doesn't know how to change color from up and down, I mean lights. So it's always from left to right only. So it might be that you cannot like see on the bottom of some models. Then you can change, for example, the environment, and then you can might see a bit better. Then there is shadows. If you click them on, they will create shadows for you. And then you can change the opacity and the computation mode a bit. And these also change if you change the environment map, it also changes the shadows there. But normally you probably don't want the shadows when you're painting because you want to see all the areas well. So I disable the shadows. Then we'll go down to camera settings. I just scroll down on the same menu. And now we can change the camera, how it looks like. And now the focal length is 70 millimeters. And you've been to photography course, so you know that that is quite wide. So it's really wide, the focal length. So if you want, you can change it to be a bit less wide. For example, 35. So that changes the focal length of the camera. So I put it on to 35. It looks a bit more natural. And then just zoom out. And then the last one, or actually what was the most important thing now, was that you had the glare on top. So the lens flare, actually, it's almost like a flare. So you can disable it under here in post effects. So just untick the glare, and now it doesn't show it for you. It depends on the lights, but it can be quite nasty. Okay, but that is display settings can be found here. And I didn't do anything that important here, but change the environment map and disable the glare. Then I'll close this guy down and go back to the normal view. And then we can start to see what the program actually does. So it's not often that we need to paint a lot. So normally materials don't have their they are not that different like colored. For example, they're mostly one colored. Even human skin is mostly one color. There's some more redness to some areas, but most of the like changes in the color are because of other stuff than the actual base color. For example, the shininess of different parts of the skin. So the nose is a bit more shiny because it has more grease on it and stuff like that. So the color itself isn't that important here. And the painting thing isn't that important thing. And if we now look at the layers, we can see that there's different types of layers, the buttons here. And the normal ones are a normal layer. What was our layer 1? You can create like these normal layers from here. Then you can disable them also from here. So you can disable the layer 1 and then it doesn't show you the paint, just like in Photoshop. So you can create these and then you can remove these by pushing the on the trash can. And I remove now all of my layers. You don't need the paint layer to be here. And let's look at the actual layers, what we are going to use the most. And these are called fill layers. So now we add a fill layer, which is the paint bucket guy here. And now when we created this, it doesn't there's nothing special here, but everything here is now filled. So it's a fill layer. And now we can change how the fill looks like. So go to the properties, which should be down here under the layers. If you've lost that, go to up here and reset your UI. And then you can see the properties. Okay, so now when we have the similar properties than with the brush, but or some of these are similar. So let's go down here and let's change the base color. So click on this and let's just change it to something that you want. Now it changes the whole of the color of the one shader or the one of the texture sets or texture areas. Okay, and now we can check these other features. So we had color and we changed that. Next up is height, and we're gonna skip that. And then we're gonna see roughness. So color we have selected, and let's now see roughness. Roughness means that how rough the paint, the top of the paint layer is. So on the right, it is really matte, and on the left is not rough, really shiny. Or yeah, you can say shiny, but it's less rough. Polished. So matte paints and polished glossy paints. And you can just turn these to a place or write in here what you want, what is the amount you want. And if you want to be more precise, you can shift drag. So then it's much slower how it changes that. So shift drag and it changes that much slower. That can be quite useful sometimes. And it's quite normally if it's on the bottom right, it's quite thin, narrow the actual menu, so it's quite nice the shift dragging. Okay, so that's roughness. Then we have metallic. Metallic is one of the values here, and this is called PBR, physics-based rendering. And this is how almost all of the materials are nowadays rendered. So all the game and animation software, they believe in these same values on the color, on the it's called albedo actually, and on the heights and roughnesses and metallicness. So base color, roughness. Then I leave it to around 0 and go to the metallic. And metallic is either 0 or 1. So there's no point of putting, or you shouldn't put metallic on anything else than 1 or 0. So that's the metallicness of the material. And now you can use it to combine the metallicness and the roughness, you can see. So if it's on the roughness is on the left and metallic is on the right, it's polished metal. Like chrome or something like that. And then if roughness is on the right, it is more like aluminum. But there is you shouldn't put it anywhere between 0 and 1 because the materials either is metallic or not metallic. Okay, those are the most important things of the basic color. I'm gonna leave this to shiny metallic paint so that we can see the other materials as well as possible. Okay, now we'll check one more thing about the uniform or the actual color. So go back to the color area where you can see the color bar, and on top of that it says base color, uniform color. If you click on this guy, you can see that it opens up a possibility to change the uniform color into something else. And what we normally use or often use here is different kind of crunch patterns. So we write here crunch, krunge, with a G, as it's spelled. So grunge. And it gives us a lot of really nice patterns, grunge patterns, which we can use on our materials. So just click on the base color on this big button here and write grunge. So it will show you all the grunge patterns here. And then just click on one of those. So it changed the color into this pattern. And the patterns are really handy when we start to make our materials. And there's a lot of them. You can just like try them on and they look a bit different. And if you want, you can just click on the X to remove those. So you on here on top of the grunge, you can click on the X. Let's go back to those grunges later on and go back to give them a color. Moikka. Sunkin kanssa mennä 318, jos. Ja. Okay, so now we have given this guy a fill color. So you can see it here. The fill now has all of this, information. And I'll go back here and set this back to a 0 metallic color and put the roughness somewhere that it's a bit more normal. So I make this like normal painted thing. So metallic down to 0 and then roughness somewhere here. So this layer would be our base color layer, because this is like the paint what we want to use here. So let's go back to the layers list and let's rename this guy to be base color, and only leave those there. And then let's create a new fill layer on top. So click on the paint buckets layer, and now we have a new layer here. And now this gets a bit stranger. Let's click the color off. So go to the material and click off the color. Or let's do it like this. Let's put on the color and let's paint another color, select another color, for example red, if you had I had the red color here. And let's see how we actually combine colors or different things here. So we normally don't paint that much here, but it shouldn't be substance painter, but it should be substance filler and masker. So that's what we do here. So we add fills and then we mask these. So now we have a red fill here, and now we add a mask. So right click and add black mask. So right click on top and then you can add a mask, and now when we add a black mask, we have everything like disappears, because now we have a mask on top of it. So now the red cannot be seen. So now we have red color, but it is masked. And then when we want to remove the mask, so we want to paint the mask off here, we will add now this gets even more complicated than in Photoshop. We will add a new paint. I don't even know what the name of this is. We will now add paint. So right click, and on the bottom we can add stuff, and now we will add paint. So now you can see that underneath we have red color, then we have a black mask, and underneath the mask we have paint. And now when we go to paint on top, sorry, I need to zoom out. So now when we paint, it will now show the mask color underneath the mask. So this is the normal procedure when we paint on top of other stuff. So we take a color and then we add a fill layer and then we paint on it. Okay, now I'll zoom in a bit and paint a bit more. And then let's change the material a bit. So now I want to go to the red material. So I click on the actual material here. So I don't want to change the paint anymore. So the paint what is on the mask, I don't want to change the mask, but I want to change the red color here. So I click on it. It has blue areas around. And the good thing about using the masks is that now I can actually change the material and not the actual where the material is. And now let's try something. So let's, for example, put the metallic up to 1. So now our other color is metallic. You can also put the roughness down to whichever parts. So now we have shiny, or I have shiny red color on top of more matte blue paints. Then let's try one more thing, which is the height. So the height is active here, and we can now try it. So we can bring the height to the right or the left. So that adds a new, it adds material height to our material. So when it's on the right, it's a bump outside, and when it's on the left, it's like a dent inside. Okay. Then I'll try one more thing, that I will now remove the paint from my mask. So I can disable it, or then I actually just disable it for now. So I disable the paint. So I disable the paint, and then I can't see anything because the paint was masking or demasking the fill here. So next up, I will add a fill to the mask. So I go here and click on the mask, right click on top of the layer, and now add a fill. So now I change the color of the whole of the mask. So now I have gray mask, so it's only showing some of the red through. But what I wanted here is not to change the actual color or here, but I want to make the mask to look a bit different. So I click on the grayscale here, uniform color, and if I don't have, I'll type in the grunges, and then I'll select one of these. So when I select a grunge on the layer, it changes the layer mask. So you can see it here. So now I have grunge dirt on the mask, and the material is high and red. So this is quite like strange, and it gets takes some time to get used to this. Okay, now I'll give you a challenge, and then let's see if you can manage it. I want you to have blue metallic color, blue metallic like a character, and it should have rust on it. It should look like it has rust on it. So that's the challenge. So you can disable these or then throw these to the trash bin and then start with fill layers. So red, no, I mean, I said blue metallic paint with rust